Hey guys, this is Tom Box. Welcome to the damage report for January 1st, 2024. This time around, we're covering more decks than usual because this ban list is larger than usual. It's the once per year, the mass wipe ban list that we expect, so that it's going to clean up the game state a little bit, wipe off a few decks, and we're going to be talking about that. But first of all, let's get everyone up to speed by showing what's on the current ban list. For the ban list itself, for banned cards or forbidden cards, the FNL list, gotta use proper terminology, we have Yugioh, Kelbeck, Mathmech Circular, and is sold, namely targeting towards Tearlaments, Mathmech, and Infernoble. Mathmech is a huge mess. Are the other two decks playable? We'll talk about that in a second. Going to 1, we have Orcus Harpora and Redox, a welcome re-addition back into the game. As for the meta stuff going down to 1, we have Rescue Ace Airlifter, Unchained Soul Shavara, and we have the 2 Sunavalon cards, the Dryas and the Sunvine Healer. I think the Rescue Ace and the Unchained, those are okay. You can reroute those cards. Sunavalon, on the other hand, let's just say there was much more significant damage there. Going up to 1, we have Ib, the World Chalice Justice Star. Maybe we'll see some revisited dragon combos. And then we have Snatch Steel. Well, with a soul gone, we don't have to worry about searching this card out and adding it back to hand. That would be pretty nasty. And then all of the attribute typing floodgates going down to 1. We have Goes and Match, Rivalry of Warlords, and there can be only 1. There must be some significance there. Maybe it's for a future product release, because I don't know, I didn't see them as that big of an issue, and I started to actually enjoy teching it myself. But anyways, moving on, we have my favorite card on this list. We have Dino Wrestler Pankratops. That one I can't wait to actually put back into the side deck. It's such a versatile card. We have Speedor Terratop and Sleepy Memory, a slap on the wrist for the Pearly. For the most part, I mean, you do still lose like guaranteed consistency. As for cards going to 3, Infinity Archfiend, Cashier Unicorn, nothing much to say there. Mind Control, Pot of Desire, Spellbook of Judgment, Sprite Start is kind of nice, and also Upstart Goblin to 3. I think the two things I want to talk about will be Mind Control and the Upstart Goblin. These two are quite significant. I mean, with Mind Control and Snatch Steal and Change of Heart, 5 of your cards can be dedicated to just breaking boards, taking opponents' cards. As long as they're targetable, you can even use that to bait out a lot of cards. Imagine having them having a full card board, and you just go Mind Control, Mind Control, Mind Control, Snatch Steal, and Change of Heart, and then you just broke their board, and then make an SP to finish the board off. Yeah, that sounds kind of scary. And Upstart Goblin, we're back to 3. We're back to the whole Holben package. Would you play 3 Upstart Goblin to thin out your deck to 37, or would you eat and draw Lockbird? So there's that. There's things to consider, but that's the list. Let's take a look at some of the winners and losers. Winners and losers, we have Dimensional Shifter, didn't get touched by the ban list, so we expect them from Fluantaries and Exorcister and Cash Tier players. And then we have Snatch Steal. That's right. I think this is a very scary card. I like, why is it scarier than Change of Heart? Sure, Change of Heart can target your face down stuff, but if you're targeting a face down, why is it face down to begin with? It means they're not doing very well anyways. But if it's Snatch Shield permanently taking something, I think that's huge. Cashier Unicorn, not significant without a Rise Heart. There's the Labyrinth deck that was completely untouched, and also Beatrice didn't get banned, so that just means the transaction rollback is gonna be a problem, at least for a little bit. I really hope not, because if we go rank 6 and where everyone's just going to Beatrice and they're just dumping Eradicator and just blowing up stuff, we have a huge problem. It's not even just Eradicator, you can just use it to lock out people's summoning. That's pretty nasty. There's also Branded Chimera, untouched, again, because Branded Fusion. Likely because it's ulti, you're not going to see it get touched. That's probably why Fenrir didn't get touched either. I really do think the OTS pack kind of highlight some of this stuff in terms of a business model, but I don't want to get too deep into that. And Orcus Harport, we're likely going to see that shoved into dark decks. Dark World, Danger, maybe even Bestials. There's a lot of potential there, and it does give you access to a counter trap, so it likely could turn into a counter trap engine. Losers, Kelbeck, Mathmech. I think Mathmech took the biggest L here by far. You literally just lost the card. It's sold. Ace, and of course Sunavalon. I think that was pretty much self-explanatory during the ban list portion. Damage report number 1, Tearlaments. And just a quick note about the band-aids on my face. I have 2 holes on my face right now that the doctor said, hey, you should probably cover that and put sunscreen on and do whatever you can just to keep it from being exposed. That's why I have a band-aid on. I wear a face mask when I leave the house now for the next 3 weeks. And anyways, Tearlaments. Well, they lost Yugioh and Kelbeck, 2 cards coming out of the deck, potentially even a 3rd card, which would be the Diviner, because Diviner's purpose was originally to send these 2 cards into the graveyard to get a 5-card mill. But essentially this deck lost 10 cards worth of mill, and the sackiness of it kind of leading a chain reaction of mills if you do hit these cards within the deck. And so there's nothing in the game that kind of replaces a 5-card mill at this particular speed. I mean, yeah, there's Bug's Nest, but that's not the point. It's about being able to get it on command, and that seems like it's out of the picture. And with that out of the picture, Diviner usually turns into a level 6, which could potentially turn into a Beatrice, or if you have a level 4, a Baron de Fleur. Both of those are now going to be a little bit harder to hit. Sure, you could have been using, Destrudo to be the one that turns into the Baron, but you're also losing out the potential to mill the Destrudo in, so everything is just massive consistency loss throughout, and the deck's sackiness consistency is also dropped significantly. So what else can you do? You can try out the Horus engine, maybe revisit some of the older glory days of the Danger engine. Remember way back when, before the Ishizu cards came out? That's what it was. And you can also even look at the Shaddoll engine, or maybe even visit the Branded engine as an option. But we're digging really down the barrel there, okay? Rika Sunavalon damage, significant damage when it comes to the Dryas and Healer. It's mainly a combo loss. It's still technically a 1-card combo deck, but you don't get to end on the Therian and the Rika stuff all with one play. It's not a 1-card get everything you want now. You have to make a little bit of a choice until they can reroute the combo so they can gain life along the way. So let's talk about what the combo does right now. You have the Dryas. Dryas goes into the Sunvine Sowing. Sowing gets you the extra monster from the extra deck, and you get the Sunseed Twin. Sunseed Twin revives the low side, and you leave yourself with the middle board. Typically, you'll go for the healer, but if you use the healer here, you can still use it to win in time if you're gonna be stuck like that, and then you just don't get it later on. And sometimes maybe that's the only significant part you have, because when you take the 2 middle monsters and you link that into Jasmine, you want Jasmine to point to 2 monsters, so you still have the low side and the Sunseed Twin. Sunseed Twin would turn into the Dryas, and then you have the Sunseed low side turning into the healer, healing and getting you the additional card into your hand. However, because we don't really have that now, you're gonna have to find another way to kind of get there. And so either maybe you go into, I don't know, the Sylvan monster, Daphne. I think there's a little bit of a lost connection there. You can also try to use Aramage Laurel at the point where you have the Jasmine. You need to heal up the life. You need to be at higher life than your opponent, so if you do have Laurel in your hand, you can still get the full combo. It just extends a little bit differently, and you do have to use additional monsters. So 1 card, you can still get to one of your engines, but if you want both, you do need an additional extender from what I can see right now. So it's a significant loss because you just don't get access to the second Dryas, and that means imperming Dryas will also hurt a lot more too. Next, Infernoble Knights taking a huge hit when it comes to the Isolde, and also the Exodia deck will no longer be able to 1-card combo. I guess this is really consistent. Maybe it was a collateral damage of the two. It was a team effort, you can say. So what's so significant about this? Well, the Neospace Connector, Fireflint Lady, any generic 2 warriors will no longer lead into access into the Infernoble line. You can't go into Ogier sending the Turpin into the graveyard. That's not possible. That's right, you're gonna have to hard open Ogier. If anything, it just becomes a lot harder. And I guess another significant thing is that you don't get a free summon of a Renault from the deck or a Resi Ardetto. And that also means the Phoenix Blade is kind of a weird card in the deck now. If you hard draw into it, it doesn't feel very good. You always love to mill it because it's free mill and add back to hand. And you don't get the Angelic Ring for free either. Your equips are a little bit, more stuck in the stash, and it's harder. It's harder. And if you start with like Neospace Connector, what are you going to lead into with the Aqua Dolphin? You have 2 monsters, none of them are tuners. You're going to have to find some way to extend separately. That's what makes it so difficult. And the typical starting play now, rather than just using 2 warriors, is that you want to probably synchro into Angelica first so that you can get into the field spot and use that to lead into the combo. Because if you start with Ogier and Renault, you automatically have the full combo anyway without even touching the Isolde. So that's probably what we're going to be seeing in the near future if you want to continue playing Infernoble Knights. They lost a whole combo tree. It's not even a line. It's there's a lot of stuff missing because of that. And yeah, it's the opening play. It was the opening play of all the opening plays leading into Isolde, and the follow-up of Isolde is gone. So it makes a lot of the other hand traps easier to hit your stuff. If it can hit your stuff, you have a problem. Like normally everyone's like, oh, save your stuff for Isolde. Isolde is just way too good. Now we're just gonna be like, oh, I'm just gonna hit your choke point, like straight up. Unchained, 2 Shavaras down, and now you're down to 1. Not that big of a problem, honestly. You're still ending on the same stuff. You don't get free Shavara. Shavara essentially can't go into Shavara. And what I mean by that, typically Yu-Gi-Oh! On the card text, it says that you usually can't search itself. Shavara kind of bypasses that by setting a card on the field, and then you can pop that card and you can summon another copy of itself anyway. So Konami essentially just took that away. And Shavara can still set a card, but that set card will never lead to Shavara. And if you burn Shavara, you know where the location of that Shavara is. You can obviously predict that they're not going to blow up their own card with a quick effect Shavara effect. So that is a very, very big loss when it comes to the hand trapping capacity of the deck too. But that doesn't mean that you don't have access to your 6s anymore. You still do. You just have to revive the same copy from the graveyard, either using the Lord Yama effect, which you probably should keep in the graveyard, or you can use Unchained Soul of Rage to add it back to your hand and use it as another popping opportunity to kind of line up your combos that way. You're still going to end on High Wave King Caesar. You're still going to end on Unchained Soul of Rage. You still probably have a back row too. So not too much of change, but the predictability is much higher, and also you're more susceptible to evenly match because you can't just destroy a card and just rebuild your entire line that way. That's something that did get taken away. So introduce new weaknesses, and the plays are going to be blatantly more obvious. So Circular, they limited this card, and you went for Silent Mining and you went for Small World to dig it out. Now they banned the card, and well, what are you gonna do? Essentially, Konami saying, hey, go pick up Salamangre. Or if you want to play Cyberus, play Firewall Defensor. Only play with those lines. That's the limitation you're stuck with. There's nothing you can really do. Everything that Circular does by setting up the graveyard, giving you free search, everything that it did was so good. And there is no Mathmech card that replaces this. So you can play Mathmech, but you're coping at this point. Rescue Ace. 2 of the airlifters were sniped out of the sky today. And so what do we have left in terms of starting play? We have 1 Airlifter, 1 Rhoda. We have 3 copies of Emergency. That's 5 cards already. That's pretty big. That's pretty big. We have 3 Wanteds, and depending on the build you're playing, you either have 1 of the Witch or you have 3 of the Witch. So let's say we have 1, we have 9. 9 ways to start the play still after the hit. So what do you need to replace these 2 Airlifter? Essentially, you can play more Impulse. If you're at 2 Impulse, you can put Call with the Grave. You can put Non-Engine to fix it. Maybe you can put the Upstart Goblin. This deck, however, I don't think you should play Upstart, because if you play Upstart, you're going to be way more susceptible to draw and Lockbird, and this deck is already susceptible to draw and Lockbird already, so I'm not sure if that's like the right play. But there are definitely ways you can play around it, especially if you just summon out Hydrant, and then you force your opponent to draw, but then you chain alert, you add the card anyway, and you just really ruin their day. I love doing that because then they really burn out all their cards. But nothing really significantly changed for this. Yeah, it sucks that it's less consistent. I think one of the more impactful things that you did lose is that you can't always open with the Airlifter or the Airlifter package plus the Diabell Star stuff, because when you get to that particular point, you can play around most things and you can still end on a Baron of 4-card pass. It's like really hard to break, but essentially it is aimed to make the deck less consistent, and I think that's probably the right direction. Before we continue to the top tier potential, guys, check out MST.TV for your card game essentials. I can't wait to show you the 2024 collection, but for now we still got a lot of sleeves available. If you want to sort your collections over the holiday, we got the box dividers, and check out some of the other products we have on hand. If you guys want to protect some of your cooler sleeves, oversleeves are the way to go. Check it all out at MSTmerch.com. I know you guys are gonna love the whites, you guys are gonna love the blacks, you guys love the pinks, and we got even some new ones coming out in the future. So anyways, let's go to the tier potential. Now for top tier potential, I've got 2 pages worth of this stuff, and we're gonna go back to the old school style. So there's probably more in the top tier, there's probably more in the high tier, more in the hidden potential, but you're gonna have to leave it down in the comment section and ask, hey, why is my deck not there? Well, we'll try to find a way to answer it for you in the comments, alright? So let's take a look at the top tier potential. We have Sinful Spoil Rescue, still probably in the top. Labyrinth, Untouched, likely staying all the way up there. We have Unchained, also doing a very good job. Bestial Runic, remember, Runic stuff was not touched this time around, and Bestial Runic was probably one of the strongest decks available right now, so definitely there. Pearly, I still think they belong here. Vanadium, completely untouched. Also probably one of the winners of this entire thing. We have Sinful Spoil Fire Kings, and they're probably going to get even better once we get into Phantom Nightmare. High tier potential, Despia Branded, Dragon Link Flaunderies, all make sense. Vanquished Soul, and Centurion. I would say they moved a step up from their hidden potential. I think they've got really good chances now. A lot of the more oppressive stuff did get hit, and making the other ones less consistent means that you get to stay just as consistent and you get to keep performing at the same level. Bestial Horse, another very scary deck. Of Branded Chimera. I think this is a deck that I wouldn't underestimate. I know I play this deck a lot now. I preach this deck a little bit, but I think it's warranted. We have the Candleman coming out, and that Candleman, we're going to see how it's going to shape up the game, or if it does anything at all. Hidden potential, Tearlaments, I think there's still a little bit of hope there. I might be just coping. Sword Soul, the deck is just really predictable. You need to be a very, very skilled player to pilot Sword Soul in this day and age, because the boards are pretty easy to break. And yeah, I don't know what more I can say about that. Rika Sunavalon, it's just because it's not a one card just destroy your opponent doesn't mean the deck is dead. I still think this deck is going to live on. You just have to revisit it, refine the potential. Cash Tira as a stun deck is still really powerful. Salamangre is still here. Drytron, because the format's going to be super Droll oriented thanks to the upstart coming back, and most of the other decks at the very top also going to be significantly impacted by Droll. Salamangre, Drytron, both of these decks are going to take a little bit of hit. We also have Plunder Patrol as well. Still here, hanging about, either be Runic or Adventure. It's still a very difficult deck to play against if you don't know what you're doing. And in the final page, Makonko is in the top tier potential, as well as Labyrinth Unchained. I kind of count that as a separate deck. High tier potential, Sprite did get the additional copy of Sprite Starter, so it's still going to be that control-esque deck that we know and love. We also have for higher Runic Sprite, kind of in the same category. We have Exorcister and Dark World. Dark World, I think it's just a Droll issue. If you can bypass the Droll issue, I think Dark World is probably the scarier of most decks. It's always going to be scary post-Dune. Gold Pride Punks, you know, they can surprise OTK, and it's a deck that can just really gas through everything. Hidden potential, I have to put an ABC in there. I think there's a good chance. I think without a Rise Heart already, it did make it a lot easier, but right now the biggest problem is probably Droll and Lockbird. Marine Size, Generator, Virtual World, all within hidden potential. I think there is something there. I've seen a couple of regional tops. Maybe that's a glimmer of hope. Snake Eye Infernoid. That is something for the future, and we're gonna have to wait and see how that one takes off, because I believe OCG had some potential there as well. They did have significant impact with the Snake Eye stuff with the Infernoid. I want to see where that one's gonna take off. And Sky Striker with triple upstart. I'm just being hopeful, but if I'm missing a deck, leave it down in the comment section, because that's, as it stands, where I think most of the decks are. And remember, top tier, high tier, and hidden potential, these are just based off of how they're expected to perform, not exactly where they stand in the tier list, but usually it's pretty close. That is all I got for this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, kind of enjoyed the breakdown, found a little bit of a starting point for your deck, make sure you guys hit that like button, hit subscribe, ding that notification bell if you guys enjoyed the damage report, and check out MSTmerch.com. And I wish you guys the happy holidays, and I'll see you all in the next one.